Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we'll make a start. Welcome to the ACT branch of the Australian Institute of International Affairs. My name is Heath McMichael and I'm branch president. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past and present. Our speaker tonight will discuss aspects of Mongolia's external outlook, including its engagement in multilateral diplomacy, a hot topic these days. A particular focus will be on UN peacekeeping and denuclearization in Northeast Asia. We look forward to hearing how Mongolia maintains healthy relations with its neighbours, Russia and China, with which the country shares deep historical and cultural ties, as well as, more recently, comprehensive strategic partnerships. While I'm on the topic of good neighbours, some may know that in 2007, Mongolia nominated Australia as one of its third neighbours, a decision Foreign Minister Penny Wong described recently as a significant milestone for the bilateral relationship, which marked its 50th anniversary in 2022. And now we've got embassies in both countries. Pleasing that the ambassador could be with us here tonight from Mongolia. But let me say, it's a great honour for the ACT branch to welcome Her Excellency, Ms Battsetseg Batmunkh, the Foreign Minister of Mongolia. Ms Batmunkh is making her first visit to Australia, although it is not the first visit by a Mongolian Foreign Minister, the third time we've had that honour. The Minister has been active in business and politics as chair of the board of the Mongolian AIIA Group, a leading IT and printing company in Mongolia between 2007 and 2009, and as an advisor to and later head of foreign relations in the Mongolian People's Party in 2011-2012. From 2016 to 2020, she served as Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs before taking the top job in January 2021. She's fluent in English and Russian. Now, as per our normal format, the Minister will speak for 20 minutes or so before we go to questions from participants in-house and from those online using the Q&A function on Zoom. And we aim to finish at 7 p.m. So without any further ado, I hand over to the Minister.
Thank you. So, good evening, everyone. Can you hear all? Yes, I have a few slides here also. So, before we begin, I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which we meet today and pay my deepest respects to elders past and present. Thank you all for taking the time to attend this evening's event. I'm deeply grateful for your warm welcome and hospitality. I would also like to sincerely thank Mr. Michael and his dedicated team for organizing this event. It's truly a pleasure to visit your beautiful country. Being here in Australia, I do see that our two countries are very similar in many ways. It is both full of natural wonders, vast territories, and are home to rich array of wildlife. Just to give you an idea, I will divide my presentation into 4 parts. First, there's a glimpse into the nomadic country. Here, I will give a brief introduction about Mongolia. Second, Mongolian-Australian relations. As almost exactly 51 years ago from the day that our two countries formally established diplomatic relations. The third part is Mongolia in the international stage. In this part, I will talk about our foreign policy and what we have been doing in the multilateral arena. And last, Mongolia's role in Northwest Asia. This is where I will focus more on our approach and efforts towards strengthening peace and security in the region. So I will start the first part, and I hope to give you a glimpse of our nomadic country. Here are some of the most remarkable features of my country. Mongolia is located in the heart of Asia, bordered by Russia in the north and China in the south, east, and west. It's a landlocked country. It is the world's second largest landlocked country and occupies territory of 1.56 million square kilometers. It is also the world's least densely populated country, with a population of 3.4 million people. Mongolia's home freedom-loving, brave and proud, yet humble people. We take pride in our millennia-old history of statehood, unique culture and traditions, and the modern story of democratic transformations. Mongolia is a land of striking contrasts. Our climate showcases extreme variations, with a scorching 35 to 40 degrees Celsius in summer and plummeting well below -40 degrees in winter. Our lands stretch as far as the eyes can see, unveiling boundless wonders, the remote Gobi Desert, the forested and alpine north, the mountains west, the endless rolling steppe, and the crystal clear rivers and lakes. And these lands severely roam 71 million of livestock and a rich array of wildlife. Mongolia is a vibrant democracy. Following 7 decades of an authoritarian rule, Mongolia's peaceful transition to democracy, free market and multi-party system in early 1990s ushered in a new state change. Today, Mongolia is a party to all major international human rights instruments. In 2021, Mongolia adopted its national law, the legal status of human rights defenders, becoming the first country in Asia to enact such a law. Like every other democracy, Mongolia does face challenges. Major policy and legal reforms are underway to eliminate corruption, strengthen the rule of law, and ensure transparency. We are also a popular destination for world leaders and prominent figures. Mongolia is a symbol of peace, as surprised by the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres during his official visit to Mongolia last year. And just 2 weeks ago, Pope Francis described he paid a visit to Mongolia and described the country as a symbol of religious freedom, referring to the harmony and peaceful coexistence of different religions in the era of Pax Mongolia. This still holds true today. So I'm moving to the second part, Mongolian-Australian relations. September 15, 1972, is a date that deserves to be remembered in our bilateral relations. Almost exactly 51 years ago, Mongolia and Australia formally established diplomatic relations. During the past decades, particularly since the 1990s, political trust between our two countries has continuously strengthened, and the scope of our collaboration has steadily broadened. Today, our bilateral relations are all-round and in-depth. Australia has become one of the leading partners. We are like-minded countries. We share common values of democracy, freedom, human rights, and rule of law. We enjoy close, friendly, and dynamic relations. Mongolia deems Australia as our third neighbor and developing expanded partnership. During the official talks with the Foreign Minister Penny Wong this morning, we discussed elevating our relationship to a comprehensive partnership. So we hope to implement the high-level visit with recent future and, well, sign I'm delighted to emphasize that our bilateral relations are developing remarkably in education, mining, and people-to-people engagements, as well as the agricultural sector. Last year, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of diplomatic ties. On this momentous milestone, President of Mongolia and the Governor General of Australia, as well as the foreign ministers, exchanged congratulatory letters. We had high-level exchanges. We organized numerous cultural activities and events in both countries. We launched commemorative coins and stamps. Several historical buildings in Canberra were illuminated with the colors of the Mongolian flag, all to showcase our partnership and to commemorate the anniversary. We are grateful to the Australian government for its continued support and development cooperation. Nearly 700 Mongolians studied in Australia through the Australia Awards Scholarship Program. We are very much enthusiastic on furthering the educational exchange between our two countries. Australia has become one of the leading Western investors in Mongolia. The Oyutadra, we say OT project, which is a joint project between the Mongolian government and Rio Tinto, has commenced its underground production in last March and is expected to produce more than 500,000 tons of copper per year. OT is expected to be the fourth largest copper mine in the world by 2030. We hope that such development would attract more investment from Australia and other countries around the world. Over 100 business delegation of Australia visited Mongolian Economic Forum this summer, July. We welcome Australia's expertise, know-how, and advanced technology on exporting agricultural goods, protecting soil. We hope to attract in the fields of animal husbandry, intensive farming, and crop farming. We look forward to implementing more joint agricultural projects. The people-to-people links are the core of our bilateral relations. The work and holiday visa arrangements has opened a new page, allowing hundreds of Mongolians and Australian youth to study, travel, and work in both countries. The Parliament approved the General Education Law, designating English as a primary foreign language. We seek to attract more volunteers to teach English in Mongolia. We announced the upcoming 3 years as a welcome to Mongolia, the tourist visit Mongolia. And we exempted 34 countries from visa. So Australian citizens are included. Okay, now I'm moving to the third part. Mongolia has embraced its peaceful, open, independent, and multi-pillared foreign policy. These principles are embedded in its national security and foreign policy concepts adopted by the State Great Oral Parliament of Mongolia. Mongolia has been an active member of the UN since 1961, and we are in good company with 193 countries. We are members of over 80 international organizations, have signed over 290 international treaties. The cornerstone of Mongolia's foreign policy is based on its unique geopolitical features, a landlocked developing country situated between two powerful nations, China and Russia. Given the country's geographical location, it is only natural for Mongolia to attach top priority to its relationship with China and Russia. Mongolia enjoys close relations and shares comprehensive strategic partnership with both its eternal neighbors. At the same time, it is important for us to find a balance in our relations with these two eternal neighbors. Mongolia's political system, development path, democracy, and other values do not only distinguish Mongolia from Russia and China, it inevitably guarantees that its existential security. As outlined in bilateral documents, we have agreed both neighbors to mutually accept each other's respective development paths and not to interfere in domestic affairs. Another important pillar of Mongolia's foreign policy is its third neighbors. Following its transition to a market economy and democracy, Mongolia has strived to foster friendly ties with countries beyond its immediate neighbors. The third neighbor does not refer to any single country. It includes all the countries that strongly advocate Mongolia's democracy, human rights, and development. Although Mongolia does not share land borders with its third neighbors, it does have shared values. We are landlocked, but not mind-locked. These values are at the heart of Mongolia's third neighbor policy. We are proud to call Australia as one of our close third neighbors. Thanks to the third neighbor policy, we launched the biggest in the world gold and copper project, AIIA in Mongolian partnership with the Australian mining company, Rio Tinto, jointly. Today, Mongolia has strong and close relationship with countries beyond its immediate neighbors. We have established special strategic partnership for peace and prosperity with Japan, and strategic partnerships with South Korea, India, and USA. Also comprehensive partnerships with Germany and Turkey. Expanded partnerships with Canada and Australia. Balancing its relations with Russia and China on one hand, and to have close ties with other countries is at times challenging for Mongolia, but it is not something new. The third neighbor policy allows us to leverage the influence of our two neighbors on issues related to the national security and fundamental interests of Mongolia, and provides diplomatic freedom on Mongolia. The third neighbor policy is not just about politics. It allows us to diversify our economy, foreign trade, and investment. Mongolia's third neighbors play a crucial role in balancing out its trade, energy, and food dependence away from two neighbors. Therefore, Mongolia is keen to enhancing its connectivity and developing its air, road, railway networks with its two neighbors to have great access to its third neighbors. With such transit corridors, Mongolia can offer the shortest route connecting Europe and Asia. Mongolia has banned the access of foreign military forces to its territory for stationing, staging, or even transiting. It is also constitutionally prohibited from joining any military alliance. Mongolia declared it would not permit use of its territory for purposes against a third party. Mongolia joined the non-aligned movement in 1993. This was Mongolia's foreign policy ambition since its emergence in the 1950s, when the country was supported by the founders of the movement. Peacekeeping exercises are an exception to this rule. Mongolia's peacekeeping experience began in 2002, when the State Great Oral Parliament passed a law establishing the legal framework for participation in the international peacekeeping operations. Since the first deployment of 2 military officers as United Nations military observers to the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2002, more than 20,000 peacekeepers have served in 11 UN peacekeeping operations. We may have a small population, but that does not stop us from making a tangible contribution to global peace and security. Today, we are the 23rd largest contributor to UN peacekeeping. In the Northeast and Central Asian region, we are the second largest troop contributor after China. Peacekeeping serves Mongolia's objective to become an active international player. In this regard, we annually host the Conquest joint peacekeeping exercise together with the US Indo-Pacific Command. Over 18,000 military personnel from 67 countries have participated in the joint exercise since it was first held in 2003. So every year organizing Conquest peacekeeping exercise. Last year, in commemoration of the 20th anniversary of Mongolia's participation in the UN peacekeeping operations, we hosted the International Conference on Strengthening the Role of Women Peacekeeping in Ulaanbaatar last year. We will host the conference every 5 years. This is an extension of our commitment to increasing the number of women in UN peacekeeping to 15% in accordance with the UN Security Council Resolution number 1325. I'm pleased to note that Mongolia and Australia cooperate continually on global and regional issues, including in defense and security. Contributing the international security and peacekeeping has been a vital purpose of our collaboration. Mongolians and Australians have served together in many UN peacekeeping operations in South Sudan, Kosovo, in Sierra Leone. Also jointly deployed on coalition operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. Australia is also an active participant in the annual Conquest peacekeeping exercises. I was talking too much today.
Take your time.
In 1992, the Mongolian president announced that the United Nations General Assembly that the country's territory would be a nuclear weapon-free zone, thus forbidding the entrance and transit of nuclear and other weapons of mass destruction through the Mongolian territory, with the main goal of protecting its national security and core interests. Mongolia's commitment to non-proliferation of nuclear weapons in all its aspects and to achieving nuclear disarmament has been widely welcomed and supported by the international community. Since 1998, the UN General Assembly has adopted the biennial resolution on Mongolia's international security and nuclear weapon-free status. As a result of Mongolia's tireless diplomacy in 2012, the 5 nuclear weapon states, permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, issued a joint statement on security assurances and affirmed their intent to respect Mongolia's nuclear weapon-free status. Since then, Mongolia has become an active promoter of non-proliferation and nuclear weapon-free zones and has been working to strengthen its nuclear weapon-free status by concluding a legally binding trilateral instrument with China and Russia. We consider the nuclear weapon-free initiative strengthened Mongolia's neutrality and recognition from P5 of the Security Council, as well as other members of the United Nations, and increased Mongolia's international engagement. So, moving to the last part. As a country with nuclear weapon-free status and strong advocate for nuclear disarmament, Mongolia is of the position that the Korean Peninsula must be free of nuclear weapons. And Mongolia is fully committed to contributing to the efforts of the international community on resolving the North Korean nuclear program through consultations and negotiation, while keeping the channel open for negotiations with North Korea and coaxing North Korea to multilateral talks. Mongolia and the DPRK have a long-standing history of diplomatic ties and frequent engagements. That is why Mongolia is one of the most suitable venues for hosting talks that involve North Korea. We have cordial relations with all countries in the region. This is even more important as countries in the region don't always see eye to eye. Mongolia announced its Ulaanbaatar Dialogue. Ulaanbaatar is the capital city of Mongolia. Initiative in 2013 has hosted a series of events focused on building confidence among regional players. The Ulaanbaatar Dialogue on Northeast Asian security has become its most notable forum, bringing together representatives from all countries in the sub-region to exchange views on an extensive range of topics, including security, energy, infrastructure, green development, and humanitarian cooperation opportunities. Mongolia hosted the 8th session of the UB Dialogue on 15 to 16 June of this year. Participants from 30 countries and more than 180 international and national delegates attended the event. The UB Dialogue serves as a confidence-building measure to help bring countries and the region into conversation with each other. So we're quite satisfied that our countries have been working intimately and supporting each other in multilateral fora. We hope to maintain this positive trend and intensify our engagement within the United Nations and its system organizations. Last but not least, the sustained development of the expanded partnership between Mongolia and Australia would not only benefit the two countries, but also contribute to the building of a strong democracy, peace and common prosperity of the world. Mongolia will, as it has done before, continue to strengthen political trust, deepen mutual beneficial cooperation, and all possible areas to promote people-to-people exchange and enhance multilateral collaboration with Australia. I firmly believe that with concerted efforts from both sides, friendly relations between Mongolia and Australia will enrich by many new areas, particularly in climate change and energy, green hydrogen, as well as cybersecurity sectors, and achieve marvelous development in the next 50 years journey. Mongolia and Australia friendship may flourish. Thank you very much for your attention.
Well, thank you so much, Foreign Minister Battsetseg. We have plenty of time for questions while people are formulating them. I might ask the first one. You mentioned the need to balance relations with your two eternal neighbours, particularly in the economic and energy sphere, where interconnectedness must be difficult to deal with. Could I get you to draw out a little bit more about how Mongolia is dealing with that interconnectedness and establishing its own way forward in the economic sphere? Is it through foreign investment, better relations with the third neighbours you mentioned? Could you tell us a little bit more about Mongolia's outlook?
Okay. And before 1990s, that means the period of socialism, we were much dependent economically on Russia. Maybe everybody knows. We exported all raw materials, mainly the mining products and the agricultural products. We had, at those times, we had about 30 to 40 million of husbandry animals, where Mongolians, half population are still nomads, and they breeding these 5 kinds of animals: this cow, sheep, goat, and horses and camel. So at that time, we exported all these agricultural products, almost 90% to Russia. After 90s, we exporting to China, because no way, we have only 2 neighbors, and the only one railroad crossing our country from Russia to China and goes through the center of Mongolia. And this railway is our doors out of our exporting goods. So from that raised this idea to have a third neighbor policy. And now also we're much dependent on China on exporting and importing goods. With Russia now, a situation of importing fuel and energy is still very much dependent. We import our fuel almost 100% from Russia and 30% of our energy. So we don't have oil refinery. So we are importing very small quantity of fuel from China. And but the trade balances, it's very difficult with Russia, because we do not export to Russia almost, because of course our Russian friends asking us to be a member of Eurasian Economic Commission. So actually we want to do trade with them in bilateral way. Our people wants to do the business with Russia as we do with China in bilateral way. So Now we are negotiating of reducing our these requirements for importing our goods of Russia. And the third neighbor policies, of course, it's no, the two neighbors cannot understand because physically we have two neighbors, and third neighbors we always prefer. This is the main goal is to implement the strategically important projects with third neighbors, which mean, for example, we now building the first ever oil refinery factory with the Indian government. With the USA, we implementing a huge project on water, and with Australia and Canada, these mining projects, for example. So the infrastructure and energy sector also we are negotiating. We started many projects with third neighbors from European countries. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Now to questions. If people could identify themselves and speak slowly and clear. Looks like Melissa's ready to go.
That's okay, Minister. Thank you so much. My name is Melissa Conley-Tyler. I'm a fellow of the Australian Institute of International Affairs and a long-time friend. So I've been delighted that you've been able to explain, I think, Mongolia's exceptional journey and its contribution to the world stage. I was lucky enough to travel through Poland, of all places, with former President Ulaanbaatar, and the sort of esteem that Mongolia's transition is held in other members of the former Eastern Bloc, I think is quite extraordinary. So I suppose I'm interested in what more third neighbours can be doing to work with you. Third neighbours do. What sort of things we can be doing, and if I could push a little, what would you like to see Australia doing on the international stage that we're not currently doing?
Yeah. It may be the most important partner from this region, the continent. Australia is our important third neighbor, as I mentioned. Unfortunately, we couldn't develop our relations so deeply during the last 30 years of our transitional transformation. So now we have many possibilities. This morning with Minister Penny Wong, we discussed to elevate our relations. That would be the door would be open widely, and as I said, that we have many similarities in cooperation with in the agricultural sector is number one. The mining is, of course, it's already running process, and we should deeply cooperate in the mining sector. And plus, we are doing now the copper mining, yeah. The critical minerals and another ambition of cooperation. And agricultural sector cooperation is most important, maybe more important than the other countries with the high development in the agricultural sector. But Australia is very close to us. So we really want to attract more investors to come to Mongolia, invest in forming their this farming industries, the processing of agricultural products, like, for example, nowadays in Mongolia, we just exporting some small quantity of meat to China mostly. And the Gulf countries, they have big demand to import our meat, but we are growing our husbandry animals. It now reaches more than 70 million of them, but we cannot export them properly. We cannot use the skin, the wool. We are the larger exporter of cashmere. This is very luxury, fancy item. Now we are supplying almost 40% of total world market of cashmere, but not fully processed, not value-added products of meat and other, because the development of our factories, manufacturing is quite low. So we ask our Australian friends, businesses, to do business there in that sector is most important thing for us.
Any other questions? Yes, at the back there.
Thank you very much to the AIIA team for putting this together. It's a lot of hard work. Thank you, Minister. Welcome to Australia. Just wondering, given that Vladimir Putin is currently in our time zone, there's a developing story potentially between Russia and the DPRK that Russia might essentially export its nuclear technology and other devices to North Korea, and the other way around, potentially tens of millions of artillery shells going to Russia for let's just say not good purposes. I was just wondering, given your relationship with the DPRK, do you potentially see yourself personally, obviously on behalf of Mongolia, playing a role in, I guess, encouraging Pyongyang that might not be a good decision in its interests? So just wondering how you see that, and also how it might potentially impact Mongolia, given that you're essentially right in the middle of Moscow and Pyongyang. Thank you.
With the Pyongyang, we have very deep relations. We established our diplomatic relations when almost
over 70 years.
70 or 80 years ago, 73 years ago. So regarding this Russia and DPRK relations, I think the thoughts are same. All the whole world just thinking and they guessing what exactly they're discussing about. Yeah, but this with DPRK, we are close friends and closely cooperate. We have embassies in both countries, and developing our relations mostly on cultural, humanitarian, agricultural, in different fields. But in military and security items like related to Russia, we quite careful, of course, because cannot say that we have to do something. But during this UB dialogue, as I discussed about Ulaanbaatar Dialogue for security, peace of the region, of course, there are many people gathered from different organizations, from different continents. We are discussing openly what they're thinking about, and some outcomes, of course, the documents comes in. DPRK also attends them.
Any other questions? Paul.
I am Paul Windwall, Minister. Nice to meet you. I'm from Council of the AIIA now. How is it that Mongolia has become a democratic nation when it's surrounded by countries which moved in the opposite direction?
Yes, interesting question. Everybody is surprised how you are developing the democracy there between Russia and China. Totally different system, but they are also different from each other. This third neighbor policy helped a lot. So Mongolian youth, Mongolia is a very young country. 70% of our population is under 45 years old. And our young people, we open the doors to all countries. We are friends with all countries. So our young people wish to study abroad a lot. During the last 30 years, many Mongolians explored different world, the democratic countries. Many politicians were studied in the USA, in European countries, and they prefer freedom and they respect human rights. And the young people wish not to live like two neighbors. So the legal environment was also very, wisely decided by our young politicians who did this kind of revolution very calmly, without any conflicts. They discussed with the elder politicians who ruled the country. So this transition was, I would say, was done very smartly. So many young people studied and returned back with their ideas of democracy, how we can develop the country as USA. Or now, very interesting that Mongolian young people prefer study English, Japanese, Korean, or German, France, or some European languages, not to study, less interest to study Chinese or Russian. We were very dependent of two neighbors, but never mixed. We say, like proudly saying that we keeping the Mongolian blood for hundreds of years. So this is also very unique mentality left from our ancestors, from our this Genghis Khan time. So we're keeping our history, the cultural heritages, and still we save them for centuries. Tomorrow, in the Sydney Theatre would be the Mongolia concert. It's very famous concert we will play tomorrow to promote.
At the Opera House.
Yeah, in the Opera House, and we prepared. And the Mongolia means horse-headed fiddle. It's a musical traditional instrument. The horse head, and it's like a violin fiddle, and the two strings, the strings made of horse tail, the horse hair. So the unique voice, we have the ensemble of this instrument, and for the first time in Australia, it's a place such big concert, and everybody is excited. 2,500 guests would see that concert. It's also kind of our advertisement of our culture.
Yes, Rosemary.
My name is Rosemary Gambling. Thank you very much. I'm following up on the question of democracy. For some of your population, democracy is a very new idea.
Yes.
I presume you don't have compulsory voting, but I was wondering what percentage of people are actively involved in the democratic process? Are you making headway into the young people are probably excited by it, but are the older population voting? Are they involved?
Now, yes. Now, even the young people don't know what was the socialism. The past, well, they don't know. The young people, the elder people, over 50 years old, maybe, they remember those times because it's totally changed.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think almost 100% of Mongolians are enjoying their democracy. Maybe sometimes feel too much freedom, you know, especially the media. We are using all these social platforms freely. Even sometimes we need some regulations on, I would say, to keep the balance on the social media. There's too much information and everybody feel free. And even children, they enjoy and they proud of our democracy. Yeah, almost 100%.
Okay. Oriel, did you have a question? Yes.
I'm Judy Schneider. I'm a member of the teaching branch here. Listening to your talk, you know, it's obvious that Mongolia is in a very vulnerable position and involves quite diplomatic stance to your sovereignty. What do you see as the main threats to your sovereignty?
ямар аюул зам байна гэж байна. Сайн харуулж демократик төсөлтөд хөгжүүлэх байна гэсэн юм байна. Ямар аюул зам байна? Аюулгүй талаас ямар аюул зам байж байгаа вэ?
We are quite optimistic. We don't. I think we don't have much treaties. In one way, this our two immediate neighbors protecting us. We are in, in very unique position, and Russia and China's protecting us, right? And sometimes we say we are the pearl between the shells. And oasis of democracy in Asia. So Americans and some of our neighbors, third neighbors, saying us the model of democracy, the oasis of democracy in Asia. Yeah, and we need, of course, to explain a lot of our situation, why we are making different decisions in the resolutions of UN, for example. We have to explain to neighbors, of course, to Russia, to China. We have to cooperate very tightly with them to understand, let them understand our unique situation, because we just want peace. We want to develop our country as fast as possible. That's why we want to cooperate with all countries. So they should know which country, how we cooperate in which field.
Are there any other questions? Yes, Penny.
Thank you, Madam Foreign Minister. I'm Penny Wensley. I'm a fellow of the Institute and a member of this branch and a former career diplomat. You mentioned climate change. I have two questions. How much is Mongolia being affected by climate change? You mentioned that you've got deserts and weather extremes, but we're seeing extreme weather events all around the world. What is happening in Mongolia and how are you adapting to climate change? And then you mentioned in particular the possibility of more cooperation with Australia in relation to climate change. Green hydrogen, what else?
Okay, thank you. Actually, Mongolia, we have desert. We say Gobi. The south part of Mongolia, problem with desertification. They calculated almost 40% of our land facing the climate. So our president put forward an initiative of 1 billion trees to plant the trees. And Mongolia has a strong wind in certain period of year. And this, we say, dust, yellow dust, comes from Mongolia to China and even reaches the all these Asian countries. So to plant trees is number one vision of our president. And now there is a big campaign, national campaigns of planting trees. And with Australia, we also want to cooperate in that field because very experienced country. And in 2026, we will organize the COP17, the conference. So we invite all of our partners to cooperate and to organize that conference successfully in Mongolia. And about the climate change, with each country, we have plans to, especially with China, now we're implementing big projects to plant the trees in north part of Mongolia. And this summer, we had flood in UB in Ulaanbaatar city, also because of the climate change. We never had such kind of huge floods there, and a few lives losses, and many families lost their living. And Australia donated 250,000 Australian dollars for this severe flood.
What was the second part of your question, Penny?
Oh, just about the green hydrogen that Madam Minister mentioned.
Okay. Just we have a big opportunity between Mongolia and Australia, and Australian Fortescue company first expressed his willingness to doing joint research on the green hydrogen in Mongolia. Mongolia is reaching green hydrogen because we have a lot of coal. From the coal, we can come out this green hydrogen. That's why we we have a lot of optimism in future. In this area, we can cooperate, engage more engagements. Also, as regards of climate change, a lot of opportunities, green energy, because in area of the renewable energy, Mongolia and Australia, we have the same agenda. As Minister says that Mongolia and Australia, we have a very similar climate, very similar also because Mongolia very windy and very sunny, because Australia has a hold around 292 days sunny, in Mongolia 270 around, also windy. That's why the renewable energy sector, we have a lot of opportunities. But we looked into, we found out the research that Australia have a big technological achievement on that. That's why we can share with Australia this technology to bring into attract to Mongolia. Yes. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? We have time for one. All right. Yes, Diane.
My name is Diane Cornell. I'm a member of the AIIA. I just wanted to ask you about your relationship with Inner Mongolia, because I presume, culturally, linguistically, with the same people. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Okay, thank you. It's an interesting question. In the region, we think that about 10 million of us, and south part of Russia, there are some Mongolian nationalities, Buryats, Tugit, and bordering us, the Chinese part, the north part of China, also Inner Mongolians, and there are almost 4.5 million of Mongolians. This we say Inner Mongolians. They have same language, same writing, but they use the old script now, and totally same. The culture, the appearances, wearing. They save the culture, the cultural heritages till now. But we have very close relations with them. Many Inner Mongolian students are studying in Mongolia, and of course they have some limits, but China is quite open to us with the communication with the Inner Mongolians, and many Mongolian people going to Inner Mongolia to study, to train, to exchange these cultural programs, and especially we cooperating with Inner Mongolians in cultural and educational sectors quite tightly. But they study Chinese first language and Mongolian, but the nomads are also same life. They're living as our nomads. Even they have some relatives in the two parts. Yes. There is no any restrictions to meet them or no.
Well, the Foreign Minister has had a long day, so we might draw a line under it there. And on behalf of the ACT branch of the AIIA, I'd like to thank her very much for coming and explaining Mongolia's outlook, relations with neighbours near and far, across a whole variety of issues, climate change, economic and energy interdependence. And wish you all the best for the rest of your stay in Australia.
Thank you.
I'm sure it'll be a marvellous performance tomorrow at the Sydney Opera House,
Yes.
and hope that you can come back to Australia very soon.
Yes.
Please accept this my veto of your visit to the AIIA.
Thank you very much.